Good afternoon. Welcome in PowerMizzou live here. Gabe, DeArmond, and Drew King with you on a Thursday afternoon. Coming to you a day late this week due to what the coaching staff is calling personal reasons, which we will not disclose. But the show is delayed today, and but it's still here. Like we are still playing. We're on the floor, active members of the roster. Drew, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, it's another week of looking forward to basketball. There's a game being played on Saturday, and so I'm excited to dive into that with you.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the time of the year where at least things become a little bit more regular. No 11 a.m. Sunday games, no
Well,
rainy Friday nighters.
it is an 11 a.m. Saturday game this week,
Yes,
but
but at least it's Saturday.
true.
We're getting into that Tuesday or Wednesday / Saturday feel.
Yep.
If you guys are here joining us live, want to go ahead and invite you questions, comments. Look, if you've got some football stuff, feel free to throw it up there. I'll do my best. This is obviously we're going to talk mostly basketball, but if you've got some football stuff, understand the portal, all that is going on. If you're listening on the podcast afterwards, you don't get the right to ask us a question live. You just deal with whatever we talk about. Do want to let you all know, as we do every week, and as this will be all season long, this show being brought to you by James Carlton State Farm Insurance, carltoninsurance.net, on the internet, 314-961-4800 on the phone. If you're one of those people hanging on to Facebook, facebook.com/Carlton Insurance. Let us know how the page looks. That's not a website I frequent, but if that's your social media of choice, James is available there. And do want to let you all know that James really is pushing, in addition to insurance, which is his main thing, his second main thing, and maybe the main one for you guys, is NIL. The name, image, and likeness is certainly a topic of conversation every week on this show, every day in college sports. And if you get in touch with James and you get an insurance quote and you tell him that you heard about him on PowerMizzou or from Drew or myself, he's going to donate $20 to Mizzou's NIL collective on your behalf. He will do that for every single person who calls and gets a quote and mentions PowerMizzou. So make sure to do that. Again, his information will be scrolling across the bottom of the screen for most of the show. Drew, look, I don't think either one of us really has anything more to say about the loss to Kansas last week, but you did have the opportunity to talk to Dennis Gates and a couple of Missouri players yesterday. So what was kind of the main thing coming out of that, and what you took from talking to the guys?
Yeah, I think everybody there kind of realized like that wasn't them playing up to their potential. Gates mentioned he thought that they weren't taking the shots they normally take. They weren't playing defense how they normally do. And it was kind of a out of character game for them. And so I think the focus has really been on how Mizzou can improve itself more than making adjustments for the next opponent necessarily. They want to make sure they're executing what they're supposed to, which I don't think they did a very good job of in this last game against Kansas.
I know, like, every coach comes off of a bad game and says everything is fixable. It's more about us than it was about them. Like, do you think Saturday was more about Kansas or more about Missouri?
Can it be both?
It can be both.
Yeah. I mean, Kansas, I think, is a really, really good team. But I also think Mizzou just did not have it that day. I mean, how many times have we seen Kobe play that poorly without getting into foul trouble? Right. I think it's happened maybe twice this year. Mm-hmm. And so I think, especially when he's what you consider possibly the best player on the team, and he's having a not so good game. I don't know that it was necessarily what Kansas did to him. I think it was just an off night for Kobe. And so if you can, get some of those situations turned around, I think you'll see something better from Mizzou.
So here's what I don't know if concerns is the right word, but here's what I've kind of thought about since the last game, and something that I think we won't really know the answer to, but it is on my radar that Missouri defensively wasn't actually a lot worse than it is. Like, I think that might be Missouri defensively. I think it's just Kansas was more able to take advantage of it than any of the previous teams have been. And I think the rest of the schedule is like, it may not be Kansas, but it's closer to Kansas than it is to name any of the blood donors Missouri has played. So if that is Missouri defensively, that's a problem.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do think that they didn't do as well at generating turnovers like we talked about. I think Kansas actually outscored them on points off of points in transition,
Fairly
points off of turnovers. Yeah, by a lot, which is, like we said, like, if Mizzou's going to win games, that has to be the opposite, right? So I do think that it's not exactly what we've seen from Mizzou, but as far as like the field goal percentages, how well Kansas was shooting from three, the open shots that we're getting, that is something that we've seen from their first couple of games before Kansas, right? And so that's something that could be, like you said, an issue going into these games against the top 17 teams in the nation.
Yeah. And look, Missouri does have 3 of the top 17 coming up in the next few weeks. Before that, on Saturday afternoon, where they're going to be is UCF, which is, I think at the beginning of the year, a game we looked at and said Missouri, like, it's not going to be a heavy favorite, but we probably would have leaned toward a win. Well, last night, UCF used a really strong first quarter from John Rice Plumlee to jump out 21-0 on Ole Miss. And for those of you who don't know, it's a football score. That's not, but like, legitimately, UCF led Ole Miss in Oxford 21-0 and won the game by 11 points. And I don't think this is a great Ole Miss team, but like, they're kind of right in that same range in the SEC as Missouri is. And so that at least made me like, I didn't even know they were playing until I saw you post about it on our message board. That result kind of opened my eyes a little bit that I think Saturday's tougher than maybe I was giving it credit for being.
Yeah, and you look at some of their other games, they beat Florida State, which, the Seminoles aren't very good this season, but that's still a win over high major. They beat Oklahoma State in overtime. And then one of their 2 losses is to Miami, and they lost by 2 points. So this is a team that's really competing at kind of the high major level. I know they're expected to join the Big 12 pretty soon here. But yeah, UCF, I think, has kind of outperformed their expectations coming into the year. Part of that, I think, is because of the freshman that they have on the roster, Taylor Hendricks. He was ranked kind of in the 60s in his class and has just played lights out early on in the season. Some people are projecting him to be a first-round pick now, being a one-and-done guy. And so I think that's kind of boosted kind of the ceiling and the floor of the team and put them on kind of the same level as some of these high majors. And so, yeah, I think Mizzou, this isn't a game that you can afford to overlook anymore, right? This is a team that you actually have to, expect.
Like, this is kind of a coin flip game now.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm looking at their KenPom page. KenPom has UCF winning this game 73-71. So Mizzou might be a slight underdog here.
Yeah. So I know that Dennis was not particularly interested in discussing UCF yesterday.
No, he was not.
Basically said, I'm not going to talk about them, which, I'll be honest, makes our jobs a little bit difficult in previewing games when the coach is not interested in talking about them. I mean, do you have I'm not going to pretend to have watched a lot of UCF basketball. I assume outside of last night, you haven't. I mean, do you have any sort of a feel for like what this team does well or I mean, look, I think what they would like to do is lead every game 21-0, but that's not so much a style, right? I mean, do you have any idea kind of what type of a team this is?
I would say it's kind of similar to Wichita State in that they're a really defensive-oriented team. They really want to kind of keep the game at a slow grit and grind pace and really make the other team work to get an open look. And I think that was something that they did really well against Ole Miss last night. Was the Rebels did not have an open shot for like the first 10 minutes of the game. Every single shot they had was contested, and that was kind of eye-opening with UCF, right? Because that's something that, you know, Mizzou might have a little bit of issues with if they can't play at the speed that they're used to. So that's kind of what I took away from UCF last night.
Well, and that Wichita State game is the one that kind of had given us a little bit of pause going into the Kansas matchup, right? Because that was the only team we'd seen get Missouri into a half-court game. And like until they prove they can win a game like that, I'm not sure they can win a game like that. So this almost seems to me like one that, hey, if UCF can play it in the 60s, maybe the low 70s, that's got to be advantage UCF. Until I see differently, I think Missouri's got to get games into the 80s to win them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we saw in the Kansas game too, Mizzou isn't as efficient on offense when they're stuck playing in the half court,
like
right?
Structured.
Right? Yes, right. When you have to, you know, really work through the 30-second shot clock to get to your, you know, your spot. And so that's something that Wichita State kind of did a good job of at times against Mizzou. And it's something that, you know, UCF did a really good job of against Ole Miss last night. And so I think this is going to be kind of a clashing of the styles, right? Because Mizzou's going to want to play fast, and it's going to come down to whether UCF will allow them or whether UCF will be able to slow the game down.
Now, I'm going to do you all a public service here. Don't say I never did anything for you. This game is on something called Bally Sports. It is basically the equivalent of the old Fox Regional Sports Network. It is on Bally Sports Florida, but I believe it will be on Bally Sports Midwest and Bally Sports Georgia and whatever other ones there are. Now, Bally Sports has this thing with streaming only. Like, I haven't watched a Kansas City Royals game for 2.5 years because I can't get Bally. I now can, but I have to pay $20 a month. And frankly, their programming is not worth $20 a month to me. So it is going to be tough for some of you to watch this game. You might be listening to Mike Kelly and Chris Trevino. I know at 10:55 on Saturday morning, our message board is going to be, oh my God, what channel is the game on my TV? I don't know what channel Bally is on your TV, but it is Bally. Find that if you want to watch this game on Saturday. After Saturday, I think most games should be fairly accessible. But kind of just last thing specifically about the UCF game, Drew, this suddenly to me becomes like this is a barometer game for me. Like this type of game is the difference between, okay, can we talk about a team that is maybe going to overachieve what a lot of national people think? Because if you go down and lose this game and you're staring at, you know, Illinois, Kentucky, Arkansas, then I think we start talking about really a team that's just fighting to keep its head above water. I mean, this is a big swing game in this season. Yeah,
absolutely. I completely agree with that. UCF, I think, you know, and coming into the season, I don't think we necessarily saw this as that type of game. I think we knew that they needed to win that game going into Illinois, Kentucky, Arkansas. Yeah, right. But I thought
I thought it might be a little easier.
Right. And so, there's a lot more pressure on this game than there was before. And I think the team realizes that too. So it'll be.
I mean, because if we're being honest, like you listed off those wins UCF has, UCF right now has done more than Missouri has. Like they've got a better quote unquote resume, whatever. And I don't think Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, like those are not blow you away wins, but it's more than Missouri's got so far.
Yeah, and it's like we said on Saturday too. You know, the loss to Kansas and a loss to Kentucky, Illinois, Arkansas. You know, that doesn't mean you're not a tournament team. It just means you're not in the top 15 or whatever, right? So the question is,
UCF probably does.
The question is, how far outside the top 15 are you? And I think this is a game that will tell you how far out you are.
And we did kind of joke last night. I saw a thing on Twitter that Trago Million said that Missouri doesn't acknowledge losses. That's not a thing. They just look at it as opportunities to get better. And I believe you said the selection committee acknowledges losses. So that is going to be a thing. Before we get to a couple of the questions, and do want to invite you guys, hey, if you got questions, football, basketball, whatever you want to talk about, feel free to toss them in there and we'll get to them. But I warned you, Drew, before this, like, UCF is like, it's the football program has come on the last few years, but I don't really know much of any. I mean, I know this about UCF basketball. It is coached by Johnny Dawkins. Now, Johnny Dawkins is the first great college basketball player I remember. Like, he was at Duke in the mid 80s when Duke rose to prominence, and he was their star. He was an All-American. As a player, he was the first guy I remember. I can name exactly one person who has ever played basketball for UCF. Can you name more than that?
The only one that comes to mind is Taco Fall.
That's the only one I know. Yes. He is not playing this weekend. 7'5", 7'6", somewhere in that range, I think he was. Went on to play for the Celtics. Yeah, not sure if he's still in the league. I have not followed Taco's career.
He's not.
Missouri did play against him. He played at Mizzou Arena a few years ago. But yeah, like, I was thinking, I was like, even a lot of these small schools that they play, like, I've heard of them. I can name a guy. I literally cannot name another single UCF basketball alum. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. Okay. And it can't be a guy on this team, but you guys put in the comments, you throw in the comments the most notable UCF basketball player you know. The first person who can come up with a former UCF basketball player and is accurate, I'm going to give you a $50 gift card to Billiards on Broadway. We've got, so I'll have to direct message you or find a way to get in touch with you to get you that card. So yeah, feel free to throw all the throw the former UCF basketball players in. And honestly, I'm going to have to go Google to find out if anybody's right.
Yeah, but no cheating, y'all. No cheating.
I mean, I don't care if you cheat. Okay. Whatever.
I should have come more prepared then, Gabe. I would have.
Well, you can't win it.
Oh,
you are not eligible. That's not how this works. I'm trying to get people to participate here, and you're mandated to participate.
That's understandable.
Right. So Kyle asks, do you expect this style to be what Dennis Gates always uses? Read an article earlier this week about a recruit saying Coach Gates wants to have the tallest team in the country. Like, is the way this team plays indicative of what we think Dennis Gates wants to do, or is he playing a style because this is what he's got?
Yeah, I've gotten that question before, and I think at this point, I think it's honestly kind of how he wants to play.
I agree.
I think he really likes to play at the pace that they are, and getting up and down the floor, scoring a lot of points. I think they could do it with taller players, right? You don't necessarily want Aiden Shaw to be the tallest guy in the rotation. But, I think that's kind of what he's looking for, at least scheme-wise. This is kind of what it's going to be.
Okay, I do want to say Dave Aspe said BJ Taylor. Google confirms that a kid named BJ Taylor played basketball for UCF.
Congrats to Dave.
What way to go, Dave. I tell you what, Dave, you shoot me an email at powermizzou@gmail.com. We'll confirm that you are who you say you are, and I will mail you out a Billiards on Broadway $50 gift card tomorrow that you can use the next time you're in Columbia. BJ Taylor, I believe, played against Missouri the last time these two teams played. I don't know if he was any good. I don't know anything about him.
I don't either.
Well done, Dave. I would be interested to know if you just knew that or if you used Google for it. But back to no, I think this is indicative of the style Dennis wants to play. Now, I think he'll have rosters in the future that maybe fit it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right? He went out, and I think he got the guys that he could find that fit it pretty well. But, when he has a year, 2 years to put together a roster, I think it'll probably look a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think that's also kind of why he brought in so many of his guys from Cleveland State, is because he wanted to run the same stuff. And so, I agree. I think the length too, talking about the tallest team in the country, like this is a scheme that can work with that, especially if you get guys who can, you know, don't have to move their feet as much to steal the ball, right? They can just kind of reach an arm out like that.
Right. Good point by Chiefs lover. One of Michael Jordan's sons did play basketball at UCF.
Oh.
I can't remember which one, but Greg Shackelford says Aubrey Dawkins played for him. That might be right. Johnny Dawkins' kid, I think. Dan is more along my lines. Looked up their Hall of Fame thinking I could lie about knowing someone in their history, and I've never heard of any of these people. That's where I'm at, man. Like, I'm gonna Google real quick. Drew, do you think how many NCAA tournaments do you think UCF has made in its history? I don't know the answer to this.
I don't either. I'll say in its history, I'll go 7. 7's a lucky number.
Okay, let's see. They have made, well, apparently they were a Division II team. They made the D2 tournament in 76, 77, 78, 80, 81, and 82. They appear to have, Division I tournament, 94, 96, 04, 05, and 19. So 5 NCAA tournaments. They have won 1 NCAA tournament game, 73-58 over VCU, and then lost 77-76 to number 1 seed Duke in the 2019-18 tournament. So
that was the Zion versus Taco matchup.
There you go. I bet you guys did not expect a UCF basketball history lesson when you logged on here, but we aim to give you a full service deal. So all right, so UCF, then Kentucky or Illinois, Kentucky, Arkansas. What's successful here?
I think, like we talked about, you're still just trying to get one win out of those 3. And even like if you don't come out with a win, I think if you look more competitive than you did against Kansas, I think that at least is a win, because it shows that, you are somewhat on the same level as some of these better teams in the country, right? Because Kansas, kind of showed that maybe they're not right now.
At least not on that day.
Yeah, not on that day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think 1-3 is like crushing. I don't think it's unexpected. You do want to be competitive in at least a couple of those games. So like you don't want to be sitting 10-4 with like 4 24-point losses. That's not going to leave anybody feeling good. But I remember looking at their schedule before the season and saying I could see them being 9-0 and then like 11-8. Like it gets tough in a hurry.
Yeah, and the SEC is a good conference too. Like I know they're good in football, but they're really good in basketball too.
Yeah, and it's gotten a lot better. I mean, look, I think coming into this, everybody knew about Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee coming into the season. Auburn's been maybe a little bit less than we expected, but Alabama has certainly been better than we expected, and maybe is now in that top 4.
Knocked off the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. We do have, I did see earlier one football question I want to get to. Danny says, would you rather have the full 2022 regular season roster for the bowl game or one with future players like Sam Horn and Mekhi Miller? Look, I think it's important Missouri tries to go win this game. 7-6 is better than 6-7. Fans want to win. Like you don't, I mean, I guess your best win so far this year is, I guess, South Carolina. South Carolina was a good win.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is a decent win. This would give you another win over a Power 5 program. It would boost Eli Drinkwitz over 500 for the first time. I think they need to win this game. Like I'm not sure that giving guys like Sam Horn and Mekhi Miller just a chance is going to make a big difference in the 2023 season. So I think they need to go win this football game above and beyond everything else. All right, so Broke Breakfast, we'll finish off with a little bit of fun here. He wants to know which SEC mascot would win in a battle royal. So I like things like this. I mean, there's so many
Great
tigers.
question.
There's so many tigers, but LSU has the live tiger. So Mike the Tiger would kick Truman's ass, would kick that little Auburn Tiger's ass. But like, I think the underrated one here is like Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, can anybody beat an elephant?
That's a good question. Maybe okay, but it's a battle royal, right? So we've got everybody in.
Oh, everybody's in the
at
in
the
the ring
same
at the same
time.
time?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think potentially everybody gangs up on the elephant to start off. Um,
So
Commodore,
everybody becomes like Auburn's friend and says, "Okay, let's eliminate the elephant first."
right? And that happens in like the Royal Rumble too. Like you see the big guy, everybody knows like, okay, we got to get him out for us normal folks to stand a chance. Mike the Tiger is a pretty good answer. I'm trying to think of who else is what other mascots are in the SEC
Like
right now.
if Auburn gets to use the eagle, that's kind of hard to catch, but I don't think the eagle ultimately can like peck eyes out enough to
Right.
win. Breakfast King likes the Commodore because he has opposable thumb. So here's also
Mhm.
what is A&M's mascot? Is it a member of the Corps of Cadets, or is it going with the collie that's on the sidelines of the football?
Yeah,
Because if it's the collie, they have no chance.
well, and an Aggie, like that makes me think it's a farmer. So,
Right.
Well, you know, like farmers, they're kind of strong too. Like they're just kind of there's something about country folk that are just naturally strong.
Right.
But no, I think we got to put Reveille in there in the ring.
Okay.
That's their mascot, Reveille.
So they're not winning.
No,
they're not winning.
I don't think Mississippi State, the Bulldogs, no chance there.
Georgia's no chance. Greg says Tony the Land Shark, but to me, Ole Miss's mascot is the Rebel. Now, look, if Colonel Reb gets to be in this, I mean, if he's got a gun, he's winning.
Absolutely.
If he is armed, he's 100% winning. He will just shoot everyone else.
Yeah, very true. Good point. South Carolina, the Gamecocks.
Yeah, the chicken is. I mean, they scare me, but they're not going to win.
Well, they could tear, you know, the little talents that they got. Tear some people
Danny
up.
wants to know if Tennessee gets one volunteer or an entire army. My answer is if weapons are involved, Ole Miss. If no weapons are allowed, I still go with the elephant. I think they just trample.
Yeah, I think
What about the gator though?
No, Gator's too low to the ground, Gabe.
It's tough to. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think we could see a gator versus elephant like the last two standing.
Okay. Yeah. No, I guess that's. No, I think the Rebel got it. Honestly, if the Rebel's got a weapon in there.
Yeah.
I think
now in a couple of years, this could be a different conversation. Like I don't think I would dick with the Longhorn, man.
Yeah, I don't know what a Sooner is, but
Sooner just drives the covered wagon around. And sometimes it tips over on its own.
That's true.
So yeah. OU.
No, shouts to Mike Leach, because I think that's where kind of this question stemmed from, because he got asked about, you know, the Pac-12 mascots, but rest in peace, Mike Leach, great guy.
I mean, I wish I would have got him on this podcast at some point. It would have been way better than like me talking. But like those are the type. I always kind of wondered, like, I think I would have liked to cover Leach, but I think also sometimes I would have hated it, because then I would have been like, hang on, I got to write a story about this football game, and all we did was talk about which SEC mascot was going to win in a fight. And now I got no information.
Right. It would have been fun though to cover him. I think at least it would never be boring. Like that's the main thing. You would never ever be boring talking to Mike Leach.
Maybe that's what we got to do. Like the big thing I've heard about Mike Leach is like, look, he didn't really want to talk about football. He found that boring. So maybe that's Gates's thing. Maybe he's telling you, I don't want to talk about the team we're going to play next. I want you to ask me like what my favorite Thanksgiving side is or something like that. I don't get that feeling.
He did get asked by Kobe Brown who has the biggest shoulders on the team a couple of weeks ago.
Well, that's a weird question.
And he gave the most like coach speak answer. He said, well, everyone has shoulders on this team because the players are the ones who carry us.
Well, that sounds like a planted question. I think Kobe was instructed to ask that. Anyway, it feels to me like we have reached the end of the line of worthwhile things to discuss. I could be wrong. I don't know. Anything else? Drew, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's all I have on Mizzou and UCF this week. But yeah, that's about all of it.
So once again, Bally's. Find it on your TV.
Yeah,
I can't tell you what channel it's on.
Don't comment on the message board. I have a digital antenna hooked up to my 40-inch box RCA. How do I watch this commercial free?
At 10:30 on Saturday morning, there are going to be 27 threads on our message board, all asking how to watch the game. I promise you, it is your official baptism into the message board. So, and I expect you to answer all of them.
Oh, thanks. Perfect.
So, do want to remind you guys that our shows are brought to you throughout basketball season, actually, by James Carlton, State Farm Insurance. We look at, as I've said, we try to partner with people whose products we use and who we can vouch for. James is Drew's insurance agent, and I've talked to James quite a few times, and a great guy. He's going to work with you, do everything he can. If you get in touch with him, again, 314-961-4800 is the phone number. CarltonInsurance.net is the internet address. James is a huge Mizzou fan. He's a supporter of PowerMizzou. You guys have a lot in common. If you've spent 29 minutes listening to us talk about UCF basketball and SEC mascot fights, like, you're big Missouri fans. So is James. He wants to help Mizzou out. He wants to help you guys help Mizzou out. So if you call him or if you email him, go on the internet, whatever, get an insurance quote from him. He is going to donate $20 to Mizzou's NIL collective on behalf of everybody to whom he gives a quote and who tells him that they heard about him on PowerMizzou. So appreciate you guys doing that. Drew, thanks for hanging out, man. You've got about 42 hours to figure out how to watch the game on Saturday. So best of luck in that endeavor.
Wish me luck. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll be back. We'll be back on regular schedule next week. We'll have Sean Williams on Tuesday doing the recruiting show. On Wednesday, we'll probably talk a little bit with Drew and then bring Gerard in to preview the Gasparilla Bowl as well. So we'll catch up with you then. Thanks for hanging out.